Buzz, you stay here. I'm going with them.
You don't think I can do it?
No!
Nice poncho.
After watching Toy Story 4 a couple of years ago, I was angry leaving the theaters. But Toy Story 5 was a nice surprise, and it actually tackled one of my generation's biggest struggles. It'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry, it'll make you cringe, and then Toy Story 5 will make you laugh again.
It's good to see them fighting again. It sure is.
The nostalgia bait in this movie went a little too hard for me, but I think if they don't make another installment, I'm okay with it. But that's actually not what we're going to be talking about today. Today we're diving into Toy Story 5, the entire franchise, specifically focusing on Toy Story 4 and Toy Story 5, but understanding the concepts that Pixar created years and years ago as a whole. Now, even more broadly than that, we're going to tackle an issue that this movie hinted at in the movie that I don't even think it was trying to go for, but it definitely was. Something that our modern society struggles with deeply. Purpose. Why do we matter on this earth? What is our purpose while we're here? What do we have to live for? These are the questions that people wrestle with, and something that I think Jessie wrestled with a lot in this movie. But not only Jessie, but also Woody. Jessie has her own interpretation, and Woody had his own. Woody's bothered me so much, but I think Jessie hit it right on the head. That is what we're going to talk about today. And honestly, we can learn a lot from this silly animated kids movie called Toy Story 5. So if you like discussing questions like this is what this channel is for. Welcome to Cut the Crap. My name is Ethan Wood. Here we like to dive into movies, ask questions, and find the deeper meaning behind it all. We talk about culture, we talk about religion, we talk about worldview, and we have a good time doing it. So if you want to follow along for more content like that, please hit the subscribe button, like this video as well so that my arch nemesis, the algorithm, will finally suggest videos to other people. Algorithm, if you're watching this, still hate you. Okay, so point number one. The premise of this movie is actually about phones. That was what all the trailers focused on, and that is what most people thought the discussion was going to be around. And to be fair, it has. But I think today we're going to dive into something a little bit different, because we have touched on phones. I understand that technology is not helpful for kids, but there's a deeper discussion happening here. But we have to start at the phones. The phones leads us into that deeper discussion. So I want to address something pretty big. Modern society is lazy. That is just a fact of this movie. We are lazier than we've ever been before. Our kids have surrendered all of their creativity, their passion, and their time to these devices. It's making them less like kids and more depressed, lonely, and isolated than ever before. And we saw this play out in Toy Story 5. It was actually very sad to see Jessie look through the window and all these kids are on their devices, separated from one another, just still. They're doing nothing except for stare at these devices. It was honestly kind of haunting to see that on screen. And I think one thing that we learned from this movie is that friendship is not easy. Living life is not easy. Being on the device is easy. It keeps you comfortable. It keeps you secure. You saw Bonnie hugging her iPad the entire time whenever she had to talk to another person, especially Blaze. She was already using that as a security blanket, but we learned that friendship is hard, it's uncomfortable, and you have to work through that if you want to make friends and live a good life. I think this movie was a really timely piece on the loneliness epidemic. Now, if you don't know what that is, go look up articles. There's plenty online about it. But basically, it is that people today are more isolated and lonely than ever before. So because it's so widespread, it's called an epidemic. And it's loneliness because people just can't seem to escape it. It seems like it's affecting everyone around us. And you've seen that, I've seen that. This movie was very, very timely in that sense. So Toy Story 5 framed this movie as being about technology and phones, but then it opened it up to a deeper, greater discussion that we're going to talk about today. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, or non-Orthodox, atheist, nihilist, I don't care. This discussion affects everyone. And it is, what is our purpose on this earth? So point number two, we need to talk about two characters, Jessie and Woody. These two both are trying to define their purpose, trying to figure out what it means to be a toy in their little society and figure out what they were created for. What is their purpose while they are still a toy? So first, let's look at the example of Jessie. Jessie has been through 3 kids. Bonnie was the third. She's been discarded by the first 2. She was starting to give up hope because of that, because she knows that she's a toy and that she's supposed to be played with, but she can't handle the heartbreak of being discarded by another kid again. And with the introduction of technology, that process is getting faster and faster and faster. And she wasn't expecting that. She was not ready to be discarded so fast. And honestly, when I was in theaters watching this movie, it was very heartbreaking. Like, this is what I mean by you're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry. This is the cry part. Her realizing that she can't handle another heartbreak, and she runs away and goes sits by the tree of her first kid. And while she's there, she finds a time capsule of her kid's kid, which is a little bit confusing, but it has a bunch of keepsakes from her mom's childhood, basically. And it shows that Jessie actually had a bigger impact on her kid than she even realized, something that lasted longer than her presence. That was cool. That was something I was like, okay, that is so telling of our society. Like, we think that we have to be there, that we have to do all the work to make an impact, and then the minute that we go away, that our effect stops. But that's not what happens. The effect is long lasting. If you pour your heart into something, it will continue to reap a reward. And that is something that Jessie figured out in this movie. She realized that she was making a difference, that her purpose was being fulfilled as a toy. Even if she wasn't able to be played with, the effect was still there. And that keeps Jessie going. So for us, Jessie is just a stellar example of what it means to fulfill our purpose. So she recognizes that she's a toy and that she's meant to be played with, and that she has to fulfill that greater purpose. She doesn't run from it, and she realizes that it's gonna be hard, there's gonna be heartbreak involved, but she still does it. And whether you're a Christian, Muslim, but somebody who believes in a higher power, you realize that purpose is a calling. It's not something that we make up, it's not something that we formulate in our own minds, it's something that we are called to by a higher power. And that is exactly what Jessie does in this movie. I think this is a stellar example for us in our daily lives. We all need to have a purpose. And whether you're a nihilist, an atheist, or someone who doesn't believe in a higher power, where do you find that purpose? Like, do you determine that yourself? Does that really fulfill you? This leads us to our second part, Woody. Woody is a stellar example of where postmodernism fails. So again, Jessie was created to be played with, Woody was also created to be played with, but instead of fulfilling his purpose to be played with, he rejects it entirely and determines his own purpose, which is to go be a vigilante toy and go save other toys, I guess. That's kind of what he determined. Guys, when I left the theaters watching Toy Story 4, this is what bothered me so much. It was kind of the era where all of the movies of my childhood decided at the same exact time that they were going to like turn away from the roots. They were going to like destroy everything that I had known. Like, I love Cars, I love How to Train Your Dragon, and I love Toy Story. All of those movies came out, like How to Train Your Dragon 3, Toy Story 4, Cars 3, and Cars 3, Lightning McQueen like ends up retiring and gives the reins off to somebody else. And I was like, okay, that stings, but it's fine. Toy Story 4, Woody just leaves and decides to not be a toy anymore. And I was like, well, that hurts. Like, destroying my childhood. And then How to Train Your Dragon 3 was the final straw. I was like, they got rid of all the dragons. Are you serious? My childhood destroyed. And that is such an interesting correlation to modern day society, because we have said that there is no higher power, that we are created to be whatever we want to be, and we get to determine our own purpose. And that's exactly what he does. He determines his own path in life. And does that really fulfill him? Is that really being the best thing that he can be? I mean, not really. It kind of reminds me of my other hobby. I have indoor plants and outdoor plants, and the indoor plants, I can water them, I can put them by a window, but I always know that they're supposed to be outside. Like, I know that they're not thriving. They're living, but they're not thriving. And that's very similar to Woody. He is living, he's doing things, he's just not thriving because he's not fulfilling the purpose for which he was called, for which he was created. This is the tension. We have Jessie and Woody, who both need purpose, who are both trying to find purpose, and they find it doing different things. That is a fascinating commentary on the loneliness epidemic today. Because in reality, we see that when we defy our purpose, we don't thrive. Purpose is something that we are called to, something that we are given. Now, where that purpose comes from, that's kind of where people disagree all the time. So first, we need to just keep discussing the tension between the two. We have Jessie, Woody. One that was created for a higher purpose, one that determines his own purpose. Now, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Jessie realizes that there is a creator, something that has given her purpose. She realizes that she has to fulfill it even if she doesn't understand who that is or what that is and why she has that purpose. But she knows that she has to care for her kid. She has to be played with. That is something that she wrestles with the entirety of Toy Story 5, and something that Woody completely rejects. And I think this is also why technology is so isolating for kids. is because kids are meant to play. Kids are meant to be creative and have imagination. But technology completely shuts all that down and just locks them in their own little corners on their devices playing games with each other, kind of with each other. They're not fulfilling the purpose for which they were created. And that is something that I thought was really fascinating about this movie. But again, the discussion is so much broader than that. We all have a purpose in this life. And hear me when I say this, when we defy that purpose, we flounder. We are not doing the thing that we are meant to do. That causes us to not flourish. Toy Story 5 did something that modern Hollywood would never, ever touch. They admitted at the end of the day that there is a purpose to which we are all called to, and there is something that gives us that purpose. We are not just aimlessly wandering around this universe with nobody looking out for us. There is something or someone out there who is giving us purpose. And coming from somebody who believes that there is a higher being, it is a much, much better way to live. Because if I had to determine my own purpose, it wouldn't last very long. I wouldn't be able to find any fulfillment in what I am doing. I've tried, I've failed. It is so much better to live knowing that there is a God, a something, a higher power out there who has given us purpose and belonging and acceptance in this world. But if you don't believe in that, then what do you have to live for? Why is life worth living if there's not a higher creative being out there somewhere? And these are the questions that Toy Story 5 wrestles with. So I want to ask a couple questions so that you guys can be thoughtful as a result, a few things that we have talked about today. So number one, who gives you purpose? Who determines that for you? Who is the one in this universe who gives you that purpose? Now, for the sake of this discussion, I come at it from a Christian worldview, so that's how I'm going to be answering the question. I find purpose and fulfillment in my God, who is my Father, who lives in heaven, who gives me the purpose. He has called me to love Him and worship Him. He's called me to love those around me as well, and He's also called me to make disciples, to share the good news of the gospel with other people. And number two, that's what I'm going to do today, is I'm going to share the gospel, because that is fulfilling my purpose and calling in this life. Now, if you are wrestling with purpose and you wonder, what is there in this universe for me? What do I live for? I want to answer that question for you, because there is an answer. There is a God who loves you, who has created you, who's given you purpose. You just have to come and understand that and accept that. And I am going to do something I've never done and should not do, but I'm going to do it because I care about you more than I do my personal privacy. I'm going to drop my email down in the description. If you have questions, if there are things you're wrestling through, if you are frustrated with Christianity, or if you just want to know more, or if you have questions about how do I accept this purpose and calling in my life, email me. I'm okay with that. Please email me. It's down in the description. I would really love to talk to you. Point number three, we've only hit the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to discuss here. We could keep discussing purpose. We could also discuss technology still. If you feel like there are things that I didn't hit on well, or there are things that you want to add, please drop it down in the comments down below. It's way more fun to discuss things down in the comments than it is here, because I love going back and forth with you guys. So please, I respond to those. I love talking to you guys. Let's continue the discussion down below. Now, on this channel, I try to be thoughtful. Again, we talk about religion, we talk about culture, we talk about worldview. If you want to follow along for more content like this and how it relates to movies, please hit that subscribe button. Also, like this video, because for whatever reason, the algorithm really likes it when you like this video so that other people can watch this video as well. Much appreciated. This has been fun. I'll see you guys in the next one. My name is Ethan Wood. This has been Cut the Crap. See you guys next time.